Big Book meeting is to read and study the first 164 pages of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, along with Dr. Bob's Nightmare. This meeting runs until 8:30, at which we'll share the time and open the meeting for till 8:45. So we'll open the meeting for 15 minutes after 8:30 for questions or comments. And again, my name is Joe. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Joe.
And I am here for the continuous renewing of my mind. And usually Karen takes this meeting, and Peggy had asked me to cover this week, and I'm honored to that she asked me. So I know I've been coming to this meeting for a while, and I know Karen's been, I think we got to about step 9, right? So what we're going to do, what's that?
We would have been on 8 tonight.
We would have been on 8 tonight. Okay, so what we're going to do is Nicki and I, we're going to run through the first 8 steps, the way we experienced it and the way it was presented to us. For me, the 12 steps and the basic text of Alcoholics Anonymous, as it is written, couldn't help me. You know, if I could have gotten recovery from reading the 12 steps and reading the Big Book, I would have just downloaded it online or had somebody send it to me, which I did try when I came into this meeting 16 years ago, and it did not work. What I needed was was guidance. What helped me was a man that had been through the 12 steps and had carved out in his life a design for living that works, as it was taught to him through the 12 steps and the basic text of Alcoholics Anonymous. That man is my sponsor, and he's sitting to my left, and his name is Nicki Steps. When I met him, I was in, as Bill describes it, a state of pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. Now, that doesn't have to be everybody's state when we come in, right? So when I first came in, I had a house, I had a car, I was married. In 2003, all these things didn't happen to me. I couldn't identify with someone that was homeless and penniless and feeling pitiful for themselves. I wasn't that person, but all that explains is what alcohol didn't do to me. What I had to get with is what alcohol did to me, even though I still had those things. I had been in this program for about 9 to 10 years, untreated, and I know now today that it was untreated. I couldn't say that when I was in the program. It was untreated because I was not taken through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. I did not know what the basic text of Alcoholics Anonymous had said. I did not know the description of the alcoholic. I did not know the chapter to the agnostic. I did not know step 3, 4, 5, and so on. What I did was come to meetings, and I made friends who were not drinking and who were sober. I had some sponsors, very well-meaning people in my life, but they could not help me, or they did not have what I needed. It took me going out after 9 years and opening a door I couldn't close for 6 years. And finally, alcohol took me to the depths of being homeless, penniless, and living under a bridge. That's where I was. And hospital visits after hospital visits. When Nicki met me, I had 3 hospital bracelets on my wrist. I did not know why. I just knew that they were there, and I just knew that every time I went to the hospital, I was taken by the police. It was either go to the hospital or go to jail. After I met him, I called him every day, and he told me, just don't drink, until my mind cleared up and we started doing the work. And when we started doing the work, it was on July 20th, 2018, so that's about 19 months ago. We opened up, and he said, if you want what I have, just do what I tell you to do. And I said, okay. At that point, I was willing to do anything that I had to do in order to not feel the way I felt. And I knew that I was desperate for some kind of solution, because my prayer was, God, please help me not wake up in the morning. I wanted to die. There was no, I didn't have the courage to kill myself or plan any suicide. I just wanted out in the easiest, softest way possible. Going to sleep and not waking up. And every time I woke up, I was pissed that I had to do this all over again, that I had to face this day all over again and find a way to drink, find a way to not be sick, and probably end up in the hospital. Everybody in my life was gone. I isolated, I alienated them, and everybody in my life, there was no one left that I could turn to for help. And I made a phone call one day, and the man is in this room, and I did not know him at the time. A little over 19 months ago, I did not know Nicki at the time. And I had heard a question in rehab that said, some guy said, when you get out of here, go to a meeting, raise your hand, and ask for a sponsor that's had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. When I got out of rehab, I did not do that. 3 weeks later, I was drinking again. Back to those same depths. I wanted to stay sober. I needed to stay sober. I wanted to be healthy. I needed to be healthy. I have 3 beautiful children, and they're young. And I wasn't present as a father. I wasn't present as a son. I wasn't present as a friend, an uncle, or whatever role I had to play in my life. I was unemployable. And I called this guy and I said, do you know anyone that's had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps? And I was drunk and I was jacked down on Librium at the time because the hospital had made a mistake of giving me a prescription for that. And that was the only thing that my mind could come to. Is like, let me ask this question, because I haven't met anyone, or at least I didn't even ask anyone if they've had a spiritual awakening as a result of doing these steps. He said, yeah, I do know someone. He'll call you right back. And this man is sitting here to my right, to my left right now. And I met him, and to say that he saved my life is kind of dramatic and cliche, but he saved me from that pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. He saved me from an unknown future of what I would look like if I continued to drink. He went out of his way. He put himself in the way and went out of his way to save me from whatever I was doing and from wherever I was. And when we sat down and we read this book, we opened it up, and I had sworn off of Alcoholics Anonymous because they said it didn't work. And I opened up this book, and we turned to the title page, and we made a little contract in here, and we turned to the title page, and he showed me the first promise in this book, and it says, the story of many thousands of men and women who have recovered from alcoholism. And if we go to the Roman numeral page 13, it says, we, and they're talking about the first 100 that have recovered. These guys went through the test. And now we're inclusive in that, the millions and millions of people that are in Alcoholics Anonymous. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. That is what I've recovered from. A seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. I did not know that. I was in this program for almost a decade. And if somebody asked me why I was an alcoholic, I would tell them because I drink too much. See, I was lost spiritually, physically, and mentally. And the recovery process gave me back my mental understanding, my physical ability, and my spirituality. This is what we become restored to when we start doing this work. And we started on the first step. And this was the first step. As soon as we opened this book, we started the first step. And, you know, Nicki, you can start getting into that if you want to.
Okay, guys, I'm Nicki. I'm an alcoholic. I introduced to as a recovered alcoholic, and this is why. So when you hear somebody, you know, we give directions, we give suggestions, but they're really directions, right? And if you hear somebody introduce themselves as recovered, the first question I always ask them is why? Why do you introduce yourself as recovered? You will know right away if they're in the book, because the answer to that question is what Joe just went over. I'm a recovered alcoholic, drug addict, liar, thief, philanderer, criminal, right? These are things I don't do anymore. This is not how I live my life anymore. I'm recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Sobriety is my thinking, right? I've cleaned up hundreds of times in my life, just like I'm sure everybody else in this room has. It's been removed from us and didn't know how to live. I didn't know how to think. I didn't know how to move soberly treated through the planet, right? Go to work, be a good employee, right? Be a good sponsor, be a good dad, be a good brother. So slowly these things through the course of my alcoholism were taken away from me, right? So I started this process December 6th, 2014, and I was on the doorstep of Bergen Regional with a black contractor bag of clothes. That was it. That's all I had left of my life, right? I owned 2 homes, I owned a business, union electrician, I'm a Desert Storm vet, wife, 2 houses I own, side business, and through the pitiful demoralization, that's where I ended up, with nothing. On the lam from the FBI, standing at Bergen Regional, broken, destroyed, at 45 years old, wondering what happened to my life, right? Completely sucked everything away from me except the air that I was breathing. And I didn't want it. I've heard thousands of reasons why people are mad at God, right? Going through the meetings and through the work. And my number one reason was that I was still here. I couldn't kill myself, right? Because I was raised in this religious belief that I'm going to hell. So now I have hell on earth. I have hell facing me. And the police are looking for me. Nothing's left. I'm homeless, living on the streets. And I'm mad at him. I blame God. That's how I came in here, believing in God, but really, really mad at him. Like, what are you kidding me? That I still have to do this day in, day out. So my process took me through, meeting people along the way. And my first experience with the book, to bring it to step 1, was Bill's story. So I ended up detoxed, rehabbed, halfway housed, and I started going to the Sahara Club in Pagoda,